Before the marriage, before the shared roof, before the tension, they were just professor and student. At the university, Kimjira walked like she owned silence. Her heels didn't echo loudly, they commanded space. Conversations softened when she passed. Phones lowered, posture straightened. She never raised her voice in class. She never needed to. Deadlines, she would say evenly, writing on the board, are not suggestions. Students scribbled faster. In the third row sat Dao Nua. She wasn't intimidated, but she was attentive. Dao liked structure, liked sharp minds, liked the way Professor Kem never wasted words. It felt efficient, clean. Nothing more. When class ended, Dao left with her friends, laughing, arguing about assignments, planning cafe visits. When class ended, Kem disappeared into faculty meetings and private calls no student ever heard about. They existed in the same building, but in entirely different worlds. The proposal came through families, business alliances disguised as mutual benefit, stability dressed as tradition. Kim agreed because she always fulfilled responsibility before desire. Dal agreed because saying no would fracture more than she was prepared to handle. The wedding was tasteful, controlled, elegant. They stood beside each other like two well-trained individuals performing a role flawlessly. It was only when the formalities ended, when the guests thinned and the doors closed, that reality arrived. Dal removed her jewelry slowly, finally lifting her gaze properly, and froze. Professor Kimjira stood across the room, removing her cufflinks. They stared. Recognition hit at the same time. You? You're? Silence swallowed the rest. The air didn't explode. It tightened.
Kem recovered first. Of course she did. This arrangement, she said calmly, though her jaw was rigid, was finalized without academic disclosure. Dao let out a small, disbelieving breath. You didn't know? No. Neither did she. A strange relief passed between them, followed immediately by something heavier. This wasn't just marriage. It was conflict, power imbalance, reputation risk, scandal waiting to happen if mishandled. Kem straightened. At university, nothing changes. Dao nodded. Professional first. Always.
They chose separate bedrooms. Not out of hostility, out of safety. At campus, Professor Kem became even more composed. No lingering looks, no softened tone. If anything, she was stricter with Dao than before. "Miss Dao," she said during a lecture one morning, "answer." Dao stood smoothly and answered without hesitation. Their eyes met only for seconds, sharp, controlled. A classmate later whispered, "She grills you more than anyone." Dao only smiled faintly. "I can handle it." At home, they passed each other politely. "Dinner is on the table." "Thank you." "If you need the study room, inform me." Of course. They were roommates bound by legality. Nothing more. Or at least that's what they told themselves. The first crack in composure came from outside. A week later, Kem attended a casual dinner with her childhood friends. They already knew she had married. They assumed it was a strategic match, a mature partner, someone fitting her image. Halfway through the meal, one friend smirked. "So, what's she like?" Kem hesitated. That alone made them lean in. "She is a student at my university." Silence. Then explosive laughter. "You married your own student? Professor, is this part of curriculum reform? So who does homework at home?" Kem's usually unshakable expression faltered. "It was arranged," she said firmly. "I did not know before the marriage." The teasing softened. One friend's tone changed. "You need to protect her. If anyone finds out—" "I know." Another friend studied her face carefully. "Are you happy?" Kem opened her mouth, closed it. "I don't know yet. she admitted quietly, and that truth unsettled her more than the jokes. Days passed, routine settled, until one afternoon after class, a female student lingered at Kem's desk. "Professor, I'm still confused about the case study." Her tone was light, slightly too warm. Dao watched from her seat while pretending to organize her bag. Kem explained efficiently, no unnecessary softness, but the student leaned closer anyway. Dao felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Not ownership, not yet, just awareness. That night at home, Dao spoke first. "You stayed late today." Kem looked up from her laptop. Academic doubt. "I see." A pause. Then Kem added, "You left before I finished class. You seemed busy." Their eyes met. Something unspoken hovered. Fragile, new. They both looked away at the same time. The house was quiet that night. 2 separate bedrooms, 2 restless minds. Cam lay awake longer than usual. She had handled corporate negotiations more complicated than this. But this was personal, and she didn't know the rules. Across the hall, Dao stared at her ceiling. She replayed the classroom scene, the way Professor Kem had remained composed, the way it bothered her anyway. She turned onto her side. This marriage had started as obligation, but something subtle was shifting. Not dramatic, not romantic, just small changes in breathing when the other entered a room, just slight tension when someone else stood too close, and neither of them was ready to name it. The message from Kem's mother arrived on a quiet Thursday evening. "We'll visit this weekend." No warning, no discussion, just information. At dinner, the house was silent except for the faint clink of utensils. Kemjira read the message twice before setting her phone down. "They're coming," she said. Across the table, Dao Nua looked up. "Who?" "Our families." Dao blinked. "Both?" "Yes." A long pause followed. They both understood the implication immediately. Separate bedrooms would not survive parental inspection. Saturday morning arrived too quickly. Suitcases rolled across the polished floor as relatives filled the house with noise and casual affection. Kem's mother hugged Dao warmly. "You look thinner," she said, already concerned. "Is she not feeding you properly?" Dao smiled politely. "She takes good care of me." Across the room, Kem nearly choked on her coffee. Her friends would never let her live that sentence down. By evening, the inevitable happened. Kem's mother walked down the hallway, opening doors casually. "This room is beautiful," she commented, stepping into Dao's bedroom. Dao felt Kem stiffen beside her. "Actually," Kem said smoothly, "Dao recently moved into my room. We're reorganizing the house." Her mother's face brightened instantly. "Good! Married couples shouldn't sleep apart." Dao forced a calm smile while her heartbeat climbed into her throat. That night, for the first time, they shared the same room. Not by choice, by necessity. The room felt different with another person inside it. Dao sat on the edge of the bed, awkwardly folding her clothes. Kem worked at the desk, pretending the situation was entirely normal. Neither mentioned the obvious. Eventually, Dao spoke first. "I can sleep on the couch." Kem looked up immediately. "No, it's your room. It's our room right now." The words hung strangely between them. After a moment, Kem sighed and closed her laptop. "We'll manage." The bed was large enough. Still, they lay on opposite edges like cautious diplomats respecting borders. In the darkness, Dao could hear Kem typing messages on her phone. Work. Always work. Morning arrived early. Kem was already dressed when Dao woke up. "You have class at 9, Kem said. Dao rubbed her eyes. "I usually take the bus." "Not today." Dao frowned. "Why?" Kem picked up her car keys. "Because my mother is watching."
The drive to campus was quiet. Students walked along the main road as the car slowed near the gate. Dao felt suddenly hyper-aware of everything. People could see them. Professor Kem's car, Professor Kem driving, Professor Kem dropping a student. "Stop here," Dao said quickly. Kem pulled over. Dao reached for the door handle but hesitated. "Thank you," she said softly. Kem nodded once. "Don't be late for class." Dao stepped out, closing the door carefully. The car drove away immediately, but someone had already seen. Near the gate, Dao's best friend stared in disbelief. "Was that—" Dao froze. "You just got dropped off by Professor Kem. It's not what you think." "Then explain." The cafe across the street became their emergency meeting place. Dao wrapped both hands around her drink. "She's my wife." The words felt unreal even now. Her friend blinked twice. "You're serious?" "Yes." "You're telling me your professor is your actual wife?" "Yes." "How is that even legal?" Dao groaned softly. "It was arranged." Her friend leaned back, stunned. "So you live together?" "Yes." "And she drops you at college?" "Only when my mother is watching," Dao muttered. But even as she said it, she knew something had shifted. Because Kem hadn't sounded reluctant, just careful. Meanwhile, at the university parking lot, Kem sat inside her car for a moment longer than necessary. Dropping Dao at the gate felt strangely domestic, like something ordinary married couples did. That thought unsettled her more than she expected. She shook it off and headed to her lecture hall. Back home that evening, the house was full again. Parents talking, dinner preparation, laughter. Dao entered the kitchen quietly and stopped. Kem stood at the counter packing something into a small container. "You skipped lunch yesterday," Kem said without looking at her. Dao blinked. "You noticed?" Kem closed the lid neatly. "You had a long schedule." She placed the lunchbox on the table. "For tomorrow." Dao stared at it. It was such a simple gesture, but it didn't feel like obligation. It felt attentive. The shared room slowly stopped feeling temporary. Night after night, they fell into an unspoken rhythm. Kem working late at her desk, Dao reading or scrolling through her phone on the bed. Sometimes silence stretched comfortably. Sometimes it felt heavy. One night, around midnight, Dao glanced toward the desk. Kem was still working. Her shoulders were tense, eyes tired. "You should sleep," Dao said. "I will." "You said that 2 hours ago." Kem didn't answer. A few minutes later, her typing slowed, then stopped. Dao looked up again. Kem had leaned back in her chair, eyes closed, asleep. Dao hesitated, then stood quietly. She placed a glass of water beside Kem's bed and gently draped a blanket over her shoulders. Kem stirred slightly but didn't wake. Dao returned to bed. Her chest felt strangely warm. Concern had appeared before love, and neither of them had planned for it. Outside the room, their families believed they were happily adjusting to married life. Inside the room, two strangers were slowly learning each other's quiet habits. The way Kem overworked herself, the way Dao stayed awake later than she admitted, the way small gestures began appearing without discussion. Nothing dramatic had happened, no confessions, no romance, but something subtle had begun forming between them. Something neither professor nor student could fully control anymore. And neither of them had noticed yet that returning to separate rooms later might not feel natural anymore.